Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Katherine Kelly, and I love change. Now, I know a lot of people don't love change. I'm a curious mind. I'm always curious about where life is going because my middle name should be evolution. I'm always looking for, okay, what is going to stir us? What is going to season us? But I also know that a lot of people don't like change. And that probably is a big part of what I spend my life doing as far as my work world, because helping people understand the changes in their lives, helping them heal from them, helping them overcome them is a huge part of psychotherapy, and it's a huge part of soul healing. And so this month, I'm really focusing on how do we embrace change and how do we really lean in to our soul's evolution? How do we really allow ourselves to, instead of resist and take all this energy pushing back, how do we relax into it? How do we really allow things to happen? And what is that going to do for our soul's evolution? So, this whole idea of being masters of soulful change, how does that happen? So, I think about many, many, many times that when a client comes in, something tragic has happened, something stressful has happened, something has shifted or changed in their lives. It could be a death, it could be a marriage, it could be a new baby that's kind of stirred their worlds, it could be a job, it could be a job loss, it could be anything. And, when we think about our soul's most natural state, it's joy and contentment. So, of course, change is going to go directly in confrontation with that natural state of who we are and what we want. And yet, what is it that seasons us the most? It's the changes in our life. So we have to kind of think about, wow, how can I embrace this? The human condition is basically all about change. Something's going to happen, something's going to throw us off, something's going to get us out of alignment. And my soul health model, for those of you who know what my soul health model is, the tree with the 10 branches of the human condition. The trunk of the tree basically represents the soul. And then now my newer model goes into the root system. But really, anything that throws off that tree, anything that throws off or creates a quote storm for that tree is going to misalign the tree. And the whole concept is, how do we get back to alignment? How do we get back to that joy and contentment? How do we get back to that equilibrium, that place that we feel like we are most at peace? So, again, as far as a soul healing process, we have to expect that change is going to happen. We're going to expect that there's something we're going to have to heal from, because that is the human condition. And yet, it's all about how we approach change and how we approach healing and how we lean in and really kind of embrace the things that are happening around us, that we learn the most, that we become seasoned the most. So, I'm going to talk through 4 different levels of or aspects, I should say, of change and how they happen. Now, I jokingly and not so jokingly say there's nothing like a birth, a death, a wedding, or a funeral, or a number of other kinds of events to really stir our worlds, whether it's about relationships in our lives, whether it's about the dynamics we have with those relationships, whether it's about resetting ourselves. It could be anything. It could be part of our awakening process. It could be, anything, but it's all based on change. It's all based on what's getting stirred. It's all based on what is kind of making us stretch our limits or uproot some things that needed to go a long time ago anyway. So these 4 concepts are all about learning, accepting, leaning in, and then also observing. Now, not so much in that order. You can throw those in whatever order you want. My favorite question to ask, and I know a lot of people just start to automatically know that I'm going to ask this, and even clients that are in between sessions, they will say, oh, what would Dr. Kelly say? Gosh, what am I supposed to learn from that? The number one thing is, what can we learn from change? What is it that's stirring? What buttons is it pushing? What is it making us do in terms of our internal groundedness? How are we getting triggered? So what can we learn about what is stirring inside of us? Now, from my language, whatever is stirring inside of us is basically from the soul. It's trying to get our attention. It's trying to push us to learn something, to grow into something, to evolve beyond something. But it's that whole idea of, what is it that we can learn from the change? Everything creates the opportunity for growth. Every single thing on this planet. And so whenever discomfort arises, we have to realize that if we can look at it from a perspective that we can learn something, we can get something from the situation, we always feel better. So number one is learning. How can we learn from the change? How can we learn about ourselves, about things we need to outgrow? How can we learn about other people? How can we learn to love better, communicate better, whatever? What is it that we can learn from a situation? The second one is accepting, and boy, is that hard at times. You know, a lot of times we are so set in our ways or in our mindsets or in the way we think things should go that we don't want to accept that change is part of life. Change is part of our evolution, and change may feel really, really uncomfortable. But if we accept that, wow, this is going to help me in some way, if we can accept that, if we can embrace that, if we can, instead of resist, again, like I said, if we can open up to maybe thinking, gosh, do I need to accept this? It takes us back into that um, more aligned state for our soul of joy and contentment. We may not want to accept whatever it is, but a lot of times it's that holding on too tight to something that we don't want to allow to change that creates more discomfort. So we have to really think through, what is it that I need to accept? What is it that I can integrate into me and realize that, okay, this is happening for a reason, and that's where the learning comes in. Number three is leaning in. So how do we consciously decide that we're going to lean into the discomfort so we can learn whatever it is? When we are pulling back and avoiding or resisting, we are not engaging in whatever is there right in front of us to change who we are and to help us evolve. And so we have to figure out, wow, in what ways can I lean into this? In what ways can I, when I say lean in, I mean, how can we kind of approach the change? How can we, instead of avoiding it, how can we approach it? How can we lean into the emotion of it so we can glean the information from it? So, what is it that we need to do to lean in? And all the while, how can we observe ourselves in this change? That's number four. But again, these aren't necessarily in any particular order. Observing ourselves is all part of conscious evolution. It is all part of our soul's development. It is all part of our evolution in general. If we can't observe ourselves and watch, wow, I'm really getting triggered by this, or wow, that's really upsetting me, or wow, that's really reminding me of this change that happened 30 years ago. If we can't observe what's going on and observe the world around us, we're not going to learn. So, how many times have you gotten so tied up in your own emotions that when you step back and looked how the other people were reacting or how the situation was unfolding, that you didn't even realize that it was unfolding for the better? And so, you know, I have a client who recently got separated from a partner of 9 or 10 years, ended up selling their house. She moved into this very small apartment, and she was really unhappy about the fact that, wow, this is not where I should be in my life. And she went on about that for a few sessions. And then, you know, I encouraged her to journal about it, really look at what she needed to grieve, look at what she was supposed to let go of so she could move on. The very next session, she comes in and she says, wow, I did some of that and I realized I'm in a much better place than I would have been. Had I stayed in that house, I would have been taking care of all of it. It would have been too much for me. And so it was this beautiful thing where she not only accepted, wow, this is really where I'm supposed to be. She leaned into the discomfort. She learned from it. And then she was able to observe herself scrambling around in the beginning and realizing, wow, this is a better situation. Why am I creating more of a stir when I don't need to? So it's all mixed in together, and our soul's evolution has all to do with our ability and our willingness to stay conscious and open to the junctures along the way that help us evolve. Now, none of us want bad things to happen, none of us, including me. However, when we can lean into those uncomfortable things and watch ourselves and learn from them and accept, wow, okay, this must be part of the soul's path thing, then it really makes life better. Then we can return and consciously decide we're going to go back to that space of alignment within that joy and contentment, which is our soul's most natural state. So, this is how the human condition works with our soul, and how our soul needs to stay very present and open to learning from our human condition. This is this constant interplay. This is that interfacing of the soul and the human condition, that if all of us could learn this, if all of us could live this way, life would become much more easy. We would not struggle as much. We would not wrestle with ourselves as much. So this whole idea of embracing change and becoming a master of embracing change, and creating this idea of soulful change, this is one of the tools in how we can evolve and how we can overcome our difficulties. So I wanted to throw this information out there to you today to help you understand this a little bit more and understand that, again, we joke the human condition is basically it's constant. It is constant that we have to change in order to grow and evolve. So play with that in your mind. See how you can lean into things. See how you can observe yourself more. And all the while know that your soul is highly involved in all of this. And that basically what we strive for is to get back to that state of joy and contentment. That's what this is all about. So I hope this gave you something. I'm sending light and love to all of you. And this is another way where I'm trying to bring that ancient wisdom back into the modern soul and help you understand how this all fits together. Have a wonderful day. I'll be back soon.